Before we get into this week's episode, we want to give a shout out to our newest patron, Michelle. Woo woo, Michelle.
Woo! Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Becoming a decanter.
A decanter. Woo! We only need 2 more patrons to reach our first goal of 25 patrons, because that's when we're going to do the triple giveaway. Not 1, not 2, but 3 separate giveaways. So stay tuned.
Also want to say thank you to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Vivian Health, DeleteMe.com, and StinkBombOdorBlocker.com. I'm Nurse Jessica Seitz, along with Nurse Erica. We're Nurses Uncorked, the podcast that takes nursing facts with nursing comedy and makes a little cocktail out of it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Nurses Uncorked. It's Nurse Jessica here with Nurse Erica. And we have a new installment today for Nurses Uncorked. It is a new addition to our podcast, and we are calling it Whiteboard News Update. Yes, this is the first installment of the Whiteboard News.
And it's mandatory attendance.
Yes, it is mandatory. You must update the whiteboard, and you must hear the news. So this is going to be all different sorts of hot, fun, crazy
stuff that's in the news right
topics.
now.
Yeah.
That might have to do with nursing or healthcare. We're going to bring it to you, keep you guys updated on all the news stories out there.
Let's do part 1, edition 1. This is exciting.
Okay.
Let's get into it. What do you got, Erica?
Well, I have a cocktail of the week.
Oh, yay.
You forgot.
How could I forget that?
All right. So I wanted to try one of these ready-to-go mix. It's called Daly's Margarita. I don't know if you can see it there.
Oh, okay.
It's a frozen cocktail. They come in all different types of cocktails. I just chose the traditional margarita. It has the alcohol in it. You freeze it. You don't have to add alcohol or ice or put it in a blender or anything. It's so easy to do. You just take it out, let it thaw a little bit, and then you kind of like massage the bag to break it up, and you pour it.
It's like one of those heat packs.
Kind of. Yeah, you have to activate it. Right. And you pour it in your margarita glass or whatever glass you want. I even put salt on the rim.
Well, that is really easy. And I've never seen that before in my life. That's
so
nice
easy
to know.
And they're good to keep in the freezer just for like whenever you want something. No fuss, no muss. Really easy. I will say it's a little sweet. I would make mine a little less sweet, but all in all, pretty damn good.
Okay. All right.
Daly's Margarita frozen cocktail.
I will have to try that. Enjoy. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Where are we headed? What do we got? What's in the news?
I've got 2. I've got 2 stories for the whiteboard news, and you've got 2 stories. You want to go first?
Yep. Sure. Let's do it.
All right.
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So where do I want to start? All right. Since I'm an L&D nurse, we'll go with this one first. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard, I think I'm saying her name correctly.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know who she is, I can't imagine that you don't. She is the daughter that was essentially almost abused her entire life because of Munchausen syndrome by proxy from her mother, and obviously had movies done about her, all sorts of stuff. And in the end, her mother was taken out by her and her, at the time, boyfriend, and served a lot of time, many years.
Just recently released from prison after like 6.5 years of a 10-year sentence.
So she's been everywhere on social media, like I mean, and meeting huge, big celebrities. Like, she got married while she was incarcerated. She was married, and then shockingly announced that her and her husband would be getting a divorce.
Very shortly after release, in the midst of a reality show. Yeah. And
then quickly found new love.
But it's her it's her ex-boyfriend that she, from prison, that she was engaged to in prison. She got back together with him.
Oh, I missed that part.
After breaking up with her husband. Yeah. The drama has followed her, for sure.
That's scandalous. Damn. But hey, Gypsy's getting a lot of action. Go, girl. She's making up for lost time. Well, here's how this relates to L&D and some healthcare news. So Gypsy's now pregnant. Dun, dun, dun.
She wasted no time.
She's on Maury Povich, and they're figuring out the daddy. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even think Maury's alive anymore. That would be tough. No, that's not what's happening. She actually claims that the new boyfriend is the father, and she went in depth. I don't know if you saw that, Erica, discussing.
Oh yeah, because there was questions about paternity because, like, it was very close from the ex-husband to the new one, and people were doing the math, and
she's explicit. She's like, I had my menstrual cycle, and had sex with my husband right before my period. Then I had my period, and then a couple days after that, I was with my new boyfriend. Yeah, it was very detailed. So she wanted everyone to know that she was certain, the new boyfriend, the rekindled flame, is the father of the baby. She's currently about 11 weeks pregnant, and she did a little bit of, besides the announcement, a controversial video that just stirred up some things where she ordered her own home fetal Doppler. I've seen these everywhere, and Erica doesn't know this. I'm not going to lie. Way back in the day, I had my own, but I'm an L&D nurse.
But you're an L&D nurse. Different. Yeah.
Yes.
She's
Gypsy
not medical
obviously is
at
not.
All.
No, Gypsy is not. So she ordered her own fetal Doppler through the mail. You can do this. I mean, they're out there. You can rent them monthly. You can buy them. You can easily get a hold of it. So I watched the video, and actually in watching her listen to the fetal heart rate, I believe that was the fetal heart rate. So she got lucky. But a lot of people were suggesting that you have to be really careful in doing that because you're not a medical professional. You're not trained. A lot of people responded saying, it can give you a false sense of security, or it could make you think something's really wrong when it's really not wrong. You can easily confuse your heart rate with the baby's heart rate because without getting into too many specifics, the maternal heart rate's about half of what a fetal heart rate is. So you could either panic yourself and actually be hearing your own heartbeat versus what the baby's heartbeat is. So it brings in a lot of issues in the fact of how it's interpreted. So she was getting a lot of backlash for that. A lot of people did videos about it. I think some big creators, Jen Hamilton, talked about it, I think. What do you think, Erica? Should people get their own fetal Doppler at home? Would you do it if you were pregnant? I don't know enough
about it. Maybe as a nurse, I would do it, but I would also research it and learn all about it first. Yeah, I feel like you said, it would just be, you would really be putting yourself at risk for misinterpretation, good or bad. I think it would give you a false sense of security or panic. And I have to imagine that most physicians would not recommend it.
Oh, I'm sure they probably say don't.
It probably increases calls to their office, moms in panic and stuff.
Or they probably say, if you have a question, call us and we'll either, see you in the office or, and especially 11 weeks is early. I mean, really, maybe by 10 weeks is when you can start to hear it with the Doppler. So it's early to try. When
do you start feeling kicks? I can't remember.
It varies. I mean, some women feel it as early as 16 weeks, but it can be anywhere from 16 to 22 weeks, somewhere in there. So that varies as well.
Because you could just do the kick counts, right? If you're worried that something has happened to the baby, right?
But you can't do that till you're farther along. The hard part is, and I get it, in the first trimester, aside from having a Doppler to hear it or an ultrasound, you don't know because you can't feel anything, So I know it leads to a lot of concern, and that if you were trained appropriately, it can make you feel a lot better knowing that the baby's okay. And it is cool to hear, but it can be scary if you don't really know what you're listening to. So
did you hear about the controversy with her baby registry?
No, what happened with that?
So the same day that she announced that she was suddenly pregnant, she publicly posted her baby registry to, I don't know what store, but within an hour or two, it was sold out. People just bought every damn thing. And I guess it was very high end items.
Wow.
And then she added more items. It sold out again.
Dang.
And people are like, look, she's a millionaire already. You know, since getting out of prison, she has this reality show. She has the book, countless interviews. While she was in prison, there was the documentary thing. Like, she is not in need of money. She can certainly buy the diapers and formula, right? And for everyone to be flocking to her registry and buying it, I don't know, some people felt like that was really in poor taste, you know?
Well, darn, I was about to buy something for her, but now this is all bought up. I can't. That's a shame.
I want to say that I have actually reached out to her to invite her to come on the podcast twice. Once right after she got out of prison, and recently. I don't expect her to respond. You know, I don't think she'll ever even see the message, but, you know, shooting our shot, right?
You never know. You never know.
And I have taken care of a ridiculous amount of suspected Munchausen syndrome by proxy cases over the years. I've had to testify in court. I've done videos about this. This is actually one of, I think, the more fascinating things that you see in pediatrics. It's pretty rare. I would love, Gypsy, you have an open invitation anytime if you're listening to come on the podcast and talk about that, because what you went through was absolute abuse, and I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, and even if Gypsy never comes on, we should do an episode about that. It's such an interesting topic. Like, I'd love to hear your take on kind of how you, I'm sure that there's signs that you can spot these kinds of things, like as you're taking care of a patient. Like,
but it's very hard to diagnose. Very hard. It can take years.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure, because that's a big thing to prove. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, we could do a future episode on that.
Yeah, okay. I'm writing it down, even though I'll never find this note again, but I'm writing it down.
I sent you a journal to write these things in, and it's the cutest journal. Where's the journal, Jessica? Where is it?
It's in my closet. I'm gonna get it.
See how it is. All right.
Yeah, shit happens.
Okay.
Your turn.
So moving right along in the mandatory whiteboard meeting here, there is a really interesting case, and I'll be interested in your take on this because we haven't talked about this yet. And this story just broke. There's not a lot of info out there yet. But in Colorado, a nurse practitioner who's been working at a fertility clinic. She is board certified in adult gerontology and acute care and family medicine. Okay. She's been working at a fertility clinic and apparently has been doing independent, unsupervised embryo transfers, egg retrievals, all manner of things, intrauterine inseminations, which I guess is actually something that NPs can do, I have found out. I'm going to mispronounce this one. Hysterosalpingograms, whatever, doing those. But she has gotten a cease and desist letter from the Colorado State Board of Nursing, who is saying, stop doing procedures. You are not licensed to do those procedures. She's under investigation from the Board of Nursing. They're telling her, stop immediately doing these procedures. The fertility clinic, which is CNY Fertility in Colorado Springs, has issued a statement saying, look, she's double board certified, but again, it's in family and gerontology acute care, so that's not really, infertility.
That's what I was going to ask. She's not working underneath a fertility doctor in any way, right?
Well, no, presumably there is one there, but it says that she assisted in 100 procedures with a physician, but has gone on to do over 650 of these independently without supervision.
Her do that? Why is he letting her?
They contend that she's absolutely within her scope of practice, and they are contesting these allegations.
Well, I mean, he could say maybe he was there supervising. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how sometimes CRNAs can do anesthesia things, but knowing that the anesthesiologist is in-house, like I bet they're trying to spin it like that somehow. I'm not saying that it's appropriate or that it's okay. I mean, rules are rules. And if she's not supposed to do it because she's a nurse practitioner, then she's not supposed to do it. But I guarantee you that's what they're trying to say, is that he was somewhat supervising. I mean,
her Instagram, and I think her social medias have since been taken down, but her Instagram, it said that she's the self-proclaimed egg retrieval and embryo transfer NP. So she makes no qualms about this.
Wow. She made her own title.
Yeah. A reporter showed up to the clinic during business hours. The door was locked. He got one of the physicians on the phone who said, yeah, no one's there and you're trespassing. So he went across the street, and then immediately all the employees left in a hurry, got in their cars, and drove away. And they're saying, we will be issuing a statement. But through their attorney, they say they're contesting these allegations. She's absolutely within her scope of practice. But here's the thing. If the board of nursing is saying you are not within your scope of practice, right, I think we default to the board of nursing situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why there's rules. Rules are rules. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, just like in different states, the rules can vary slightly. You have to follow the state that you're in, and you've got to follow we can't just make shit up as we go. I mean, what I can
apparently we can
go because I'm a good driver. I mean, I can go really, really fucking fast because I used to drive NASCAR. So clearly I've done it, right? I mean, you just can't.
I tried to look up the Scope of Practice, Nurse Practice Act for Colorado NPs, and it's, as usual, they're pretty hard to decipher. It's like 55 pages. I couldn't find anything specific to these procedures in there, but I also didn't read it that thoroughly yet.
You didn't read all 55 pages?
Jeez, I just found out about this like last night. So I was trying this morning. I don't think that it's going to specifically list all of these procedures, And so I did kind of post something on my Instagram asking NPs to weigh in, saying, can you guys do this? Like, tell me. There were a few that said you can do anything under a physician's training, under their license. But I think that this depends state to state. I'm sure. And other NPs were appalled. And a lot of them did say they can do the intrauterine inseminations, but the other things, the egg retrievals, invasive egg, no, they're like, absolutely not. No.
I wonder what her success rate is. I wonder if she's good.
Well, they interviewed a mom who had unsuccessful IVF treatments there at that clinic. And she was saying, how do I know that it would not have been successful had the physician done it and not her?
Oh boy, here we go. Yep.
Right? Sounds like a litigious threat to me.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if this has any bearing or not, but that particular fertility clinic, it's like the Wish version of fertility clinics, apparently, because they're all, I guess, $20,000 on average for an IVF cycle, but this one is charging like $5,000 to $6,000, like substantially less.
It's like BOGO. It's like buy one get one free prices. Damn, that's a steal.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I don't know if you guys are listening. If you're an NP, weigh in on this. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you're from Colorado, if you know anything about this, but I thought that was crazy.
Or if you're dealing with infertility and you want a bargain and you live in Colorado,
right?
Evidently, they're serving them up like
but also,
Happy Meals.
How do you, as a nurse, whether you're just an RN or an NP, get a cease and desist letter from the board of nursing and respond with, nah, I can still do it? Scare the shit out of you and be like, no, I'm done. I will not do it. I'm cooperating fully.
She's got big balls. Big balls.
Right?
Big balls. Yeah. Maybe that should be a new award. We give away the Big Ball Award.
Big Ball Award.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So to be
Big
continued.
cojones.
I'm sure there'll be more.
Okay.
This story just broke, but yeah, that's a crazy one. What do you got?
Yeah, sure is.
What do you got for the whiteboard?
The next story I have is this has been a crazy week, hasn't it? This last week.
Oh my God. So
I don't
much.
like talking politics because
me neither.
But no, we're not going to talk politics.
We're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, we kind of are.
Not really.
So this week, obviously, unless you've been living in a coma, I'm sure you heard about the attempted assassination on
former
President Donald Trump. Yeah, I had to say that correctly. Former president, who's now the Republican running person on the ticket. Yes, candidate for this upcoming election. There were a lot of people, obviously, that had their theories on what happened, their political views, their whatever. Well,
there's so many conspiracy theories going around.
As we've said a million times, don't post stuff like that on social media, especially as a healthcare worker. And that's what happened. There was a nurse and some other workers at New York City Presbyterian Hospital that decided to state that they wished that Trump had lost his life. And that it had,
on social media.
On social media, they made... And
that
of
was
course,
not a good idea.
No. And of course, people get heated about politics.
Pissed. Yeah.
Very mad. Very, very, very mad. I don't speak to one of my family members because of it. That's a whole nother episode. But just don't do it. So if you're working somewhere, don't violate your work social media policy. So what happened was this nurse, a pharmacy tech, and I believe somebody else at this particular hospital got a lot of backlash and in turn were let go and fired from their job because they posted their political views on social media. And they have every right to do it.
I am not surprised that they were terminated at all.
No, not at all. This was on July 15th. July 15th, so the day after.
Yeah, the day after the attempt. Employers do not want to hear your political opinions, regardless of what side you're on. They don't want to hear...
In all honesty, most people don't. Not just employers.
True.
Most people don't want to hear it, but especially your
They don't want to hear any of that. They don't want to hear Free Palestine. They don't want you to post anything remotely controversial, regardless of which side you're on, at all. And there is so little margin for getting away with it because social media policies are written ironclad. And if you have a public social media page, or even if it's private, but someone reposts it, and anywhere on your profile or even from a post from 3 years ago, you're wearing a badge to the hospital or a jacket with the hospital name on it and logo, a picture outside, anything identifiable, they will find that. And they will say you are violating our social media policy. Even if you do it outside of work hours, makes no difference. What I'm saying,
with that one, it could have been her coworkers that turned her in, because when you start talking about religion, politics, your own coworker might throw you under the bus because people don't agree with what you said. It offends them. Yeah. And that's their way. Like, hey, this is not who knows who it could have been multiple people that turned them in.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not worth it. It's just not worth it to do it. It's
well, and didn't she say that she wished that the assassination had been successful? Like,
yes,
it's one thing to say, I don't like this candidate, but it's another level to say, I wish they died. I mean,
and I even said, I don't care what side of the fence that you're on. I mean, death is a big deal, people. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. You cannot like somebody, and I totally get that. But to say I wish that it had, woo, that's bad. That's,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell this nurse, but she's, sorry.
She's not the first. She's not going to be the last. There was, I think it was actually an L&D nurse that was terminated recently for posting or saying something about Palestine, and she had just won an award from the hospital. Like, there is zero room for doing this. They're not going to investigate. They're not going to, give you a slap on the wrist. They are going to go directly to termination more often than not. So you guys don't do it.
And it does, like, people,
don't
I think what some people feel is like, oh, it's freedom of speech. I should be able to say what I want to say. I am not what my employer is. But if you are associated with that hospital or wherever it is, you are representing them. That's how they spin it all the time. So if you are perceived in a bad light, they can associate you with that hospital, meaning that the hospital is then put into a bad light. And we all know that they do not like bad press. So,
not at all. Because what happens is you get the public inevitably that are outraged calling up the hospital and saying, I will never come to your hospital again because you have a nurse that it wants Trump dead or whatever. So they see it as impacting them negatively financially.
Y'all are a democratic hospital. Like, they can spin it any way. And
the thing is, like, you do have freedom of speech. You can post that publicly. You have the right to do that. Your employer has a right to terminate you for doing that too.
True. So, hey, if you want to roll the dice and see what happens, I guess technically you can. You're not going to go to jail. You just may not have a job.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a good way to look at it. You're not going to go to jail. You can say it, but you may not clock in. And
tensions
you'll never update your
are
whiteboard again.
High. Not there anyway.
Now we're going to take a moment to hear a word from our sponsors. Erica, you know how there's always that one coworker on the unit that you can depend on to find and dig information on just about anybody?
Always.
And you know how they do it is through these online data broker websites. These websites collect and sell sensitive information. It's really scary.
Unless you have a service like Delete Me, which I've been a customer of for years. They go on and help to remove your personal private information from hundreds of online data broker websites. They'll remove your name, phone number, address, social security number, employer, even your family members' names. It's really a valuable service. And we have a 20% off code to share with our listeners. It's code UNCORKED, or you can go to joindeleteme.com/uncorked.
Erica, have you ever smelled something at work that is so horrendous that it literally makes your toes curl? Like you feel like you literally could be the vomiting patient at that moment.
Oh, of course. I'm a nurse. We smell all the terrible smells.
That's why I love Stink Bomb Odor Blocker, because it is the key to getting rid of or helping eliminate horrible stenches.
Yeah, it looks like a little chapstick, but you put it under your nose. It comes in lots of different scents, and it blocks out all of the worst smells. And it was actually made and developed by an ER nurse.
I'm smelling lime right now, and lime might be up there with one of my top favorites. It's amazing. You should check out stinkbombodor.com and use the code UNCORKED15 for 15% off your purchase. Attention healthcare workers, are you in a job hole? If you are, you're not alone. I've been getting that message from tons of healthcare workers and nurses, especially travel nurses. Have you been hearing that lately, Erica?
Yeah, a lot of them are making the switch using the Vivian Health app to switch over to full-time, part-time, or per diem positions now that the travel market is starting to slow down a bit.
Yeah, what I actually, the Vivian Health app, what I love about it is that you can filter jobs from highest to lowest paying. And what's neat is that it's a job marketplace, not just for nurses, but all healthcare workers.
Yeah, if you're looking, you should download the Vivian Health app or go to the link in the description of this podcast.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to get into the problem of the week. Problem of the week. What's
All
this
right,
week's
so
problem?
we had someone write in. I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Hey there, I was wondering if you could talk about admission criteria and if or how organizations are pushing inappropriate patients to the wrong units. I feel like ratios are always talked about, but what about those times when a patient is inappropriate for that particular floor or unit and no one agrees they need to be transferred?" So this is really common. I've seen this, unfortunately, so many times. It's like if ICU is full, suddenly they will downgrade the patient to put them on step down or med
Mm-hmm.
surge or whatever because there's a bed there and the patient really isn't appropriate. And it can really lead to a lot of unsafe situations that ultimately patients pay for,
Mm-hmm.
happens all the time. So you got to get policies for everything. Every unit is going to have a policy about the criteria for that unit. What they can take oxygen up to how much, but if it's on a non-rebreather, then it needs to be in, higher level of care, whatever. That's going to all be spelled out somewhere in the unit policy. So you need to just always have that handy at all times so that you can pull it out and go, actually, we can't do that here according to the policy, and then if that doesn't work, you need to go to the physician if you can and say, you realize I'm not going to be able to be checking that patient Q15 like you have ordered because they really don't belong in this. Like, try to get them to advocate, but it can be treacherous, and then
And I
just
feel
create
like
your paper trail.
it can go both ways too. Like if there's a patient that should be downgraded and they don't have a bed to put the patient on a different floor, like we would
Yeah.
for L&D patients, we would get some that didn't need like continuous monitoring anymore and they needed to go to like like our high risk floor. But if there weren't beds, then it was like they would just write the criteria where they didn't need the type of like monitoring and stuff that they were getting, but because there was nowhere to send them, like it can go both ways. And I feel like a lot of times physicians are pressured to change their orders and things based upon
Yeah.
where they can get their patient taken care of. And the other thing that would stink, like for us, what I was saying is can be the opposite, is like sometimes physicians know that their patients will get better care on a higher level acuity floor. Like, so
Yes.
patients that should be on a different level, like a down, a floor that's a step down, they would
Mm-hmm.
try to find a reason because they know they'd get bothered less than they would if they were on a different.
Oh, that's a
Do
good
you know?
point.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they would get like the nurse would be able to be more attentive to them. So I think it goes it goes both ways, and it sucks. I don't think it's right for the patient, no matter which way you look at it. But it's all about.
It's not. And sometimes physicians are really pressured and told like this is an administrative decision.
Oh yeah.
And then it's up to the providers to have a backbone and say, well, actually it's a medical decision, and
Mm-hmm.
I am telling you they need a higher level of care or whatever. But it can be so challenging. It really
Oh,
can.
it really. I mean, there's. I mean, obviously, not to keep going back to L&D, but there's been times like I've had patients, that need to be in an ICU. Like they're pregnant,
Yeah.
but there's drips that we don't understand. We've never touched. Like they're needing their heart regulated. Like, but the other units are not comfortable with pregnant patients, and then you get into this whole like, it's a very hard, gray, difficult area, but I think it can make things not safe for the patient, because I mean, I wouldn't want a
Absolutely.
nurse taking care of me that's not used to the type of
Or that
care that I
has the
need.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I ever
Yeah.
tell you the toilet story? What I did one time?
I don't I don't think so.
Okay,
But
this is one of my favorites. So ER was trying to send a totally inappropriate patient to the floor because ICU was full, right? And there was like
okay.
one bed open on the floor, and they were going to send this completely inappropriate patient. Okay. I went back and forth with the house supervisor, the medical director. I did all the things, and they were adamant. No, the patient is coming. The patient is coming. Well,
Okay.
there may or may not, hypothetically, have been a toilet that in the one open room that overflowed and maybe had some debris stuffed into it, causing it to overflow everywhere. And we had to
Ew.
block the room off. I did what I had to do. Hypothetically, we couldn't take the
Yeah.
patient. Had to block the
Heck,
room. It was
well, I wouldn't
inhabitable.
want to put a patient in that, would you? Right?
Very effective.
Yeah. I mean, although I'm sitting here listening to that and I'm like, I feel like that wouldn't stop some managers or
Right?
administrators. Like, they'd just be like, well, I mean, they're going to shit anyways. Like, what difference does it make? We might as well just coat the fucking floor and just get them ready.
Well, it worked that time. And I know that they had their suspicions, but they couldn't prove it.
Good. Good. So I
Yeah,
guess you got to be creative. That lesson is sometimes you got to get creative.
Yeah. And, just advocate, get your policies and try to bring in your manager, your house soup, the physician, whoever. But yeah, it can be super challenging. Yeah. All right. I got one more mandatory whiteboard news. And this one's a doozy. So buckle up.
I can't wait. Do I know about this? Do I know it?
No.
Maybe?
No. I just found out about this yesterday or the day before, and I have gone way down the rabbit hole. I have listened to, I think, like 16 hours of meeting footage. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway. So,
boy.
California Board of Nursing. All right. In regards to any nurses that have had diversion, narcotic issues, or mental health issues, addiction, mental health, anything along those lines, whether they are self-reporting or have been reported, whatever, they have to go through a company called Maximus that the Board of Nursing has contracted with. And this is the company that will send them for drug testing, that has the case managers that they have to check in with, that makes them do, A through Z on the list before they can be cleared to go back to work or work unsupervised, whatever. It's supposed to be individual based on the person and situation. Okay. Oh my God. The nurses there in California, I think there's about 250 something currently that are part of this Maximus program, are in an outrage. They have been going to the scheduled Board of Nursing hearings for the last few months, demanding to be heard. So much so that it appears the Board of Nursing scheduled a separate all-day hearing simply to address this, to give them all time to have public comment about it. I'm going to post links in the description to a couple of those Board of Nursing hearings that were recorded. And oh my God, it's so much. Every single one of them has a horror story. Some of them are so fearful of retaliation for speaking up that they are having their family members speak for them so that they can't be identified. But essentially, they are blaming this woman named Shannon Johnson, who is the enforcement division chief, basically the one running Maximus. She is not a nurse. Her background is law enforcement, which they say is a real issue, because how do you have a nurse, dictating nursing appropriateness, which I agree with. You're not even clinical.
A non-nurse. You said
right.
Nurse, but I know what you mean.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That is saying, you can or you're not appropriate to do this as a nurse, whatever, when you're not even clinical. Yeah. And I get that. Okay. So they have horror stories of getting to the end of their agreement, whatever their individual agreement is. And these things are years long. So imagine you're put on a 4-year freaking contract where you have to, do these things every single week and complete all these things. And then you get right up to the end. You've had no issues. You've been 100% compliant. And at the very last minute, they're like, we're going to tack on another 18 months for no reason. And they're doing this like across the board, left and right. They are forcing, they have to pay out of pocket every time they have to go for a drug test. And they can get a call at the drop of a hat and say, you have to go now. And if they're at work, they have to leave work and go do it. And employers are, they're made aware that they're in these situations, and the employer has to let them go to go do these drug tests. Every time they go, it's like hundreds of dollars.
Okay, so these are nurses that are already, because they've been caught or deemed as having somewhat of an, am I understanding
addiction
this correctly?
Or mental health issue.
Okay. So whatever the case may be, okay, I'm following. I just want to make sure they're not doing this to people that don't have an issue already. They're not making them pay for their own drug tests and sending them.
In a way they are, because there's a lot, for example, that say they were forced into this program as a mean to an ends to get their license back. So they're told, look, if you want your license back, you're going to go into treatment. And they're like, I've been sober for X amount of years. This isn't a diversion thing. Nothing happened at work. I had one DUI 3 years before I even got my license. And you guys are now forcing me into treatment. Like I done been sober, but they have to go through all these things.
You know what that made me think of when you said that? This is going to ruin the world tour. Did you hear Justin Timberlake say that? When Justin Timberlake got arrested for his DUI, the cop didn't know who he was because the cop was young. He had no clue who Justin Timberlake was. So Justin said to him,
"This is going to ruin the world tour."
This is going to ruin the world tour. The cop goes, "What world tour? Like who the hell are you? It's going to ruin the world tour, man." Yeah.
So they're spending
is it a
like
money-making thing? Is it a money-making
that's what they're
scheme?
saying. And the Board of Nursing chimed in the middle of all of these public comments at one point and said, hey, look, we're not making money on this, because all the nurses are like, where's the money going? And the Board of Nursing is like, it's not going to us. We only make money off renewals and stuff like that, license renewals, not from this. So presumably this Maximus company run by Shannon Johnson, presumably is the one making all this money. They're saying they're spending upwards of $15,000 a year just in drug tests, that there are often nowhere to go get drug tests, especially if they live somewhere a little outside of a city, or if it's a weekend. They're having to drive 300 miles to get a drug test. They have to get it done that day, or else they're not in compliance, and then they can't work for 30 days, or they risk their license. There's nowhere to go get a drug test because it has to be like an approved place. So they're set up for failure.
They're setting them up to fail so they can extend the program.
Yes.
So they'll never get out. They're stuck in the program for life.
Yeah, and they're saying it's like double jeopardy because some of them have been through a criminal charge for this and been cleared or whatever, done what they need to do, as far as maybe community service or whatnot. And here they are 8 years later, still dealing with it from the Board of Nursing, that they're being held hostage by the Board of Nursing, that every time they speak out, there's retaliation, that they're...
Oh, I'm sure.
And that employers don't want to deal with this. Employers don't want to hire them because, I mean, why would you? If you have someone that there's a chance they could come to you and say, I have to go get a drug test mid-shift, like... that's not conducive to staffing, right?
I'd be pissed off. Can you take my patients? I have to go to the next state to take oh my gosh, what a mess.
And then there's this whole thing where they are requiring them now, and they just made up this new rule where regardless of the individual situation, they're making them go and do 6 months worth of work. So they have to get a job on their own somewhere where they are dealing with narcotics, like they're administering narcotics. They have to prove that they can be essentially exposed to and work with narcotics without any issues, which kind of sounds okay in theory, except a lot of them are saying, look, I'm not going to do bedside anymore. Look, I've been working in case management for 3 years. I'm not administering meds. Look, I'm doing home health. Look, I've gotten my master's degree. I work in leadership. I'm not going to have access to this. And they're being forced to, in some cases, quit their jobs that they're happy at, that they've been at for years, and go find a new job so that they can be employed for 6 months doing this whole narcotic thing. Like, it's absurd, right? There's no exceptions.
For some people, that's part of their sobriety, is taking themselves out of those situations. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like that's, you don't tempt yourself. Like, so for some people, that is, again, could be setting them up for failure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, oh, that's what about the nurses that had a mental health issue and not like drug
put in the same bucket?
What?
And the ones that kill me are the ones that self-reported. You think, okay, I'm doing the right thing. This is what we're told to do. I'm going to get some help. I'm being responsible. And now they're being punished for years. Families have been broken up because of this. They're spending $40,000 a year in crazy fee after fee after fee. They have to, they're nickel and dime to death for everything. There are nurses that are supposedly living in their cars, that are working 2 jobs to pay for these things. There are nurses that apparently are suicidal because of this. And the really sad one, in addition to the suicidal, are the ones that are like, look, we're at a point where we don't even want to be a nurse anymore. You have made this so miserable that we are willing to leave the profession entirely because there is no way to successfully overcome this program.
Right. I would. I'd rather go to McDonald's. I'd rather, I mean, for the amount of money that they're shelling out, I'd rather just do something, you know, like that. At least you could have peace of mind that you're not going to be harassed constantly, you know?
It's absolutely insane, the horror stories. You've got to go in and listen. I'll put the link in the description to just some of these public comments. Horror story after horror story. And it's crazy because when you listen to it, you know, you have a 2-minute limit to give your public comment. They cut them off like mid-sentence. There is no letting them finish a sentence. They will be impassioned in the middle of a sentence and it'll just cut them off after 2 minutes.
Can you imagine me as long-winded as I am?
No. No.
I would still be on. I'm super excited to be here.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. Like, all right,
move on. Enough said. Get out of here. That's awful. I mean, they're scared to speak up too because now
they are.
You know, they're what a mess! What a horrible
They've
mess.
had, I think, 3 separate. They had one like April, May, June. These all day kind of, you know, public comment meetings. Now they have another one scheduled for August 21st, 22nd. But you can tell these nurses are like, they're pushing the Board of Nursing now. They are becoming more and more aggressive with their public comments. They're like, you need to do something about this today. Stop putting this off. You need to address this today. This woman, Shannon Johnson, who is also testifying at these meetings, the nurses are like, she's lying to you. Everything she's saying is a lie. You're being manipulated. And sometimes the Board of Nursing members, you can tell, are like, this is absolutely unacceptable. One of them apologized to the nurses. But bottom line is nothing has been done about it yet, to my knowledge. They are still having to deal with this.
For legal purposes, do we need to address this as allegedly, or is this like...
I mean, it's on the California Board of Nursing YouTube page. These are public hearings because all Board of Nursing hearings are public. They're public. You can go on and listen to it. So yes, I guess everything that the nurses are saying are alleged because how are you going to prove all those individual stories? But all of this is publicly posted by the Board of Nursing through the state of California. Okay. Yeah. So
and it would be very difficult for 250 nurses to all come up with the same. What would be the reason?
Not one of them had anything good to say. Occasionally, there was like 1 or 2 that said, "Look, I really did gain my sobriety from this, or I'm grateful for, the program teaching me skills, whatever. But
Right.
they've held me hostage for years and I'm going broke and I can't graduate from this,
Right. Right.
It's an absolute nightmare. I feel so bad for these nurses. And the thing is, this is not supporting them. This is not encouraging someone to self-report, because why would you, knowing this?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
And we're not doing anything to improve their mental health with this. Like, how is this supportive for nurses? It's not. And so we have known for a long time that boards of nursing can, in some cases, in some states, be very sort of corrupt with these sort of issues. But it sounds like California and this Maximus program are on another stratosphere. And I feel terrible for these nurses that are participating in this program.
I wonder how long they're contracted with this company. Like, how can they get out of it? Like, eventually, or do they want to keep working with this company? Like, I wonder what the thoughts are on that.
I know. Honestly, they need to cut their losses and get something else in place. Some of the nurses are even calling for this program and the people like Shannon Johnson to be prosecuted, like reported, because I don't know for what, money fraud, extortion. I don't know what you would call it.
It affects you mentally too. I mean,
they're suffering.
Yeah, that I feel sorry for all of them. That's absolutely horrible. I mean, and if you're going to work with a company like that and you are going to have somebody at the drop of a hat, make it convenient for, at least to go do the testing. If you're going to, to make them drive like all that way. And
and they're assigned case managers, and case managers are just arbitrarily not responding to them for months at a time. They can't get a hold of anyone. They can't get any information. They're just kind of left out there to hang and then being held accountable for constantly changing rules that are not communicated. I would be enraged if I had to deal with that level of incompetence.
I would too, and I feel for all of them. I don't even know what to say. I hope that it gets rectified and that somebody stands up for these nurses and puts a stop to it. I mean, that's not right.
It's not. Wow. It's a nightmare. Yeah.
How are they going to update their whiteboard if they're not at work?
Yeah.
Right?
I know. How are they going to? They're too busy running to get a drug test.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to get a piss break, I guess, at work. But that's not quite what we were looking for, right?
No.
That's not quite what we were asking.
All right, but I do have an Enema award of the week.
Okay.
And it goes to a nursing professor by the name of Liz Weiss at Dickinson University. This is a story that I recently covered where the entire faculty, all the full-time nursing professors, walked out and quit, like in protest of the workload and everything that was going on at that university. So I heard from countless students and employees thanking me for doing a video about it, except for Liz Weiss, who felt the need to message me and tell me how terrible a job I did, and that I painted them in such a poor light, and that it really isn't as bad as she just went off on me. And what I actually said in the video was that I applaud the faculty for having the courage to make the hard decision and setting a good example for nursing students to stick together and fight for safety, essentially. Like, I literally said I applaud them. And somehow in her mind, she misconstrued this into I am the devil incarnate and felt the need to reach out to me about it. So this week's Enema of the Week award goes to you, Liz Weiss.
Liz, come on, girl. What's going on, Liz? Liz, I think you need to watch that video again.
Internet troll.
That's our first wrap up of Whiteboard News Update. What do you think, Erica?
I like it, but you guys let us know if you like it, if you want us to continue doing this. I don't know, maybe once a month or so, whenever important stories are coming up, let us know.
Yeah, we'll do it. I think this was fun.
Yeah.
All right, until next time on the next Nurses Uncorked.